had essentially laid out for a period of time as the campaign plan for Afghanistan. And that was unprecedented, right? To have someone from the Central Intelligence Agency sort of outlining the war plan.
It breaks all the rules. The job of CIA is to inform policy. It's not to make policy.
Will Neff in the end. Common fucking name, guys. Vice News is interviewing Robert Grenier.
Robert Grenier is the former CIA station chief for Pakistan and Afghanistan. He was responsible for designing the Afghanistan war plan following the 9/11 attacks that drove the Taliban and al-Qaeda from Kandahar. This was a stunning turn of events that the veteran intelligence officer has captured in vivid detail in his new book, 88 Days to Kandahar, a CIA diary. Vice News sat down with Grenier at his home in Virginia to talk about America's longest war. Post 9/11, you were the chief of station in Pakistan at the time. What happened next?
Well, as the chief of station in Pakistan at that time, I had responsibility not only for Pakistan, but also for all of Taliban-occupied Afghanistan, which was 90% of the country. In a sense, the story began well before. About 18 months before 9/11, I and the others in my station were working very hard to try to organize a anti-Taliban tribal rebellion in the South. Now, we weren't actively doing that because we didn't have a presidential finding that would permit us to do that. We didn't have the authorities. But we were reaching out and establishing relationships that we hoped would enable us to lead that sort of a rebellion if and when the order came to go forward. And obviously that order came to go forward in the immediate days after 9/11.
In the immediate days after 9/11, you had hoped, according to your book, that you could utilize all of those assets that you'd been developing relationships with to actually accomplish either overthrowing the Taliban or pushing al-Qaeda, denying them safe haven in Afghanistan. That was the initial goal, right?
As I tried to explain to Washington at the outset, look, at the end of the day, unless we're going to colonize Afghanistan, we need to have some sort of a political dispensation in that country that will deny it as a safe haven to international terrorists. And so initially, we were hoping that the Taliban would be that force. Now, they had refused up until then. With the potential imminence of an American invasion, we were hoping that that would cause Mullah Omar, the head of the Taliban, to change his mind. He did not change his mind. And so I worked very hard in 2 long meetings with his deputy to try to convince him to push Mullah Omar aside and do what his chief could not. And he very briefly agreed, but that agreement didn't survive his return to Kandahar, and he quickly thought better of it. And so in the end, we had to push the Taliban writ large aside and come in on the side of the Northern Alliance in the Civil War, but very, very importantly, at the same time, support tribal leaders in the Pashtun south of Afghanistan who were willing to rise up against the Taliban. The Taliban was an indigenous religious movement, really, much more so than a political party. They were a movement in southern Afghanistan, in the Pashtun areas of Afghanistan. And it was that movement which was empowered by the situation after the Soviet withdrawal from Afghanistan, when the different Mujahideen leaders who had united in the fight against the Soviets fell to fighting against one another. And so Afghanistan was a complete mess. There was absolute insecurity. People, particularly in the South, were looking for someone to save them. And the Taliban was that force, and Islam was their driving motivation. And when you don't have anything to include security, the one thing that you most crave is security, and that's what the Taliban was able to provide.
In the post 9/11 days, the administration adopted what you had essentially laid out for a period of time as the campaign plan for Afghanistan. And that was unprecedented, right? To have someone from the Central Intelligence Agency sort of outlining the war plan.
It breaks all the rules. The job of CIA is to inform policy. It's not to make policy. And because CIA was in such a unique position in Afghanistan, first of all, the country was very little known, very little understood, including even within the intelligence community, certainly in the executive branch writ large, we quickly determined that the best way forward was for us to leverage relationships with Afghans on the ground who could do what we could not over the long term, and that is to deny their country as a safe haven to international terrorists. And because CIA had those relationships, people were looking to CIA to actually lead this effort. And so that put me in a very, very...
I love when he's like, did you guys catch the part where he's like, You know, we didn't have actual congressional approval, but I was still trying to desperately drum up some kind of insurgency against the Taliban in the region. You know, just like gearing up. Interesting stuff from the CIA, man. I also love watching videos like this because he's basically saying precisely what I've been telling you, but he's saying that it's good. The main difference between like what I do as far as commentary and what he is doing here is telling you exactly what the fucking details of the case are, or the details of the situation is. But I think that's bad, and I tell you why I think that's bad. He's basically just saying, like, that's actually pretty good. We're just casually doing all this, and it's also, you know, it's actually a casual way to try to drum up an insurgency against it. He's like, why are you there, dude? Oh, sorry. To advance America's interests, of course. Trick question. So where are all the fucking annoying neoliberals now, chat? Where are all the annoying neoliberal defenders of how I'm a fucking conspiracy theorist or some shit? Maybe they're stuck on the top of the hour ad break that's coming right now because it is fucking 5. You lost 5K viewers? I don't care. What do you mean? Dude, no one is going to sit here for 6 hours and listen to the complicated history of Afghanistan over and over again. Okay? Maybe they are stuck watching this motherfucking ad break, baby. Of course, if you no longer want to be stuck watching the ad break, all you need to do is subscribe. You can do it for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime if you have one. Okay? By connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, or you can use an ad blocker or a VPN, but here's the 1-minute ad break now.
Very unique position, and I laid out first for the War Cabinet and then for the president how I thought we should go forward, at least in terms of broad outline, and that's what the president approved.
And so that began what you describe in your book as the first Afghan war.
Right.
Can you explain these distinctions? How many Afghan wars are there?
Well, we don't know yet. And you could go back to the days of the anti-Soviet jihad when the U.S. at least played a supporting role for the Mujahideen. But in terms of direct U.S. involvement in hostilities in Afghanistan, obviously that began with the immediate post-9/11 period. And as I describe in the book, you know, the 88 days, it was 88 days from 9/11 until the 7th of December 2001 when we and our Afghan allies succeeded in driving both al-Qaeda and the Taliban out of their capital, which was Kandahar. And so that, to my mind, was the first American-Afghan war, the one that we thought, at least, that we'd won. And that, in fact, we had the opportunity to consolidate that victory. I think that, you know, we and the Afghans, they don't escape blame in all of this, failed to do that. And by the time I returned to focus once again personally on Afghanistan and Pakistan in the spring of 2005, by that time I was the director of counterterrorism, made an extensive visit both to Pakistan and to Afghanistan. And you could see at that point that the Taliban was beginning to gain traction once again in southern and eastern Afghanistan. We didn't know how serious it was at the time, but that, to my mind, was the start of the second American-Afghan war, the one where the U.S. essentially took over. After 2005, as we began to see the situation slipping away, and in a sense, you know, in so many words, we as a government decided that Afghanistan was too important to be left to Afghans. And we
Hey, one Albanian chatter, shut the fuck up, okay? I changed the Talibania title to Talibama just so the singular Albanian chatter could shut the fuck up in the chat. It's kind of cringe. Albania is allowing people to come in. Kind of cringe. Literally one guy. I changed it. Are you happy? Shut up.
We tried to turn Afghanistan, I would argue, into something that it was not. A highly centralized state with a large army, large national police force, and we tried to do things that we certainly were not going to be able to do in the amount of time that we made available, and that arguably Afghans were never going to be able to sustain on their own. And I think that was the big error that we made. That's led us up to the present, and the substantial U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. And I'm concerned that at some point When things shift again and the front lines in the global jihad move once again, once again international terrorists in significant numbers may be motivated to come back to Afghanistan, and we may be forced to fight another American-Afghan war.
What do you think the prognosis is for Afghanistan now in this diminished American presence there?
I don't think we will ever see a coalition government involving the Taliban in Kabul. There's always going to be a place for the Taliban as long as we're around in Pashtun society, and somehow that's going to have to be accommodated. And I think that is the story of the next few years. I'm afraid that if the international community, particularly the United States,
Wow, it's almost like this motherfucker back in 2015 knew exactly what was going to happen. Just like back in 2014, they knew exactly what was going to happen. Like the fucking Pentagon Afghanistan papers that we just saw. They always fucking knew. You just found out just now, and you're still, for some weird reason, repeating the dumbass liberal mainstream media warmongering positions that, for whatever interest they may have, trying to justify the continuation of the occupation.
Abandon Afghanistan, financially especially, that this government could go under and we could end up in a situation very similar to the one that we faced just before 9/11.
Now we're facing a new terrorist threat, an emergent terrorist threat in northern Iraq and Syria,
Yes.
In the Islamic State. What are the lessons that we can draw to apply to this new threat that it's emerged in the Islamic State?
Well, you're suggesting that the situation with the Islamic State, ISIS, ISIL, whatever you want to call it, in Iraq and Syria is quite different from what we faced in Afghanistan and parts of Pakistan. But there are some very important analogies to be made. And I think it really, from our perspective, it has to do with what the constructive U.S. role should be. What we're facing in Iraq, and even more so in Syria, is that we don't have effective allies on the ground in those countries. We need indigenous forces. We don't have them. Already we're beginning to see pressure build to see a much more...
And that's where the Kurds come in.
robust American effort in those countries. And I think that that would be a very, very serious mistake because, as I say, there, as in Afghanistan, at the end of the day, these countries are going to be ruled, governed by the indigenous people. And if we come in a very heavy-handed way, we qualitatively change the nature of the struggle. It becomes the infidels fighting against good Muslims. And that actually undercuts our natural allies in the area. It strengthens our natural enemies. That's not where we want to be, and that's where we could end up, just as we did in the latter years in Afghanistan.
What are our lessons learned from the Afghanistan conflicts?
The primary lesson that we need to learn has to do with this large, in fact, global problem that we have of an ungoverned space. Those are the spaces that are used by international terrorists as safe havens.
Biden just erased the last 2 decades of our work in the Middle East. Our work doing what? Fucking your mom, dude? Listen, motherfucker, if you're going to talk like that going forward, you have to I will drop you, okay? I will drop you out of a fucking plane with a parachute strapped to your goddamn chest so you go continue the work, okay? That's it. The moment that you ever say some shit like this on the internet, anonymous or not, you get put up in a fucking system where you're forcibly drafted to go do whatever they're talking about, okay? Spend 1 day in Afghanistan, then your opinion is valid. Biden will go down as one of the worst presidents in U.S. history. Sleepy Joe really just erased the last 2 decades. How many days did you spend in Afghanistan, you dumb fuck? Glad Biden just shit on the countless number of soldiers we lost fighting in a war that, hey, dumbass, you're almost there. Okay? You're literally almost there. Yes, the countless number of soldiers we lost fighting that war, let alone the civilian casualties, which is significantly fucking higher as far as numbers, but you don't care about them because they're brown, right? Because they're not human in your minds. Why do you want to extend that, you dumb fuck? The countless number of soldiers we lost. Hey, welcome, dude. This is the first fucking step towards you recognizing that war is a goddamn racket for the wealthy and elites and people who are going to make money off of all of those fucking young kids, men and women, going over there and getting fucking blown to goddamn bits. Okay? Hello. There you go, dude. Imagine going to the battle with your brothers to lose them fighting the war over your own president. Also, and I've said this before, and I will say it with my entire fucking chest, if you are a veteran and you went down there, you did not recognize the atrocities that you were fucking committing, and then only now where you're like, oh my God, why did I die? Why did my fucking best friend die in vain? Then you're a dumbass, dude. Welcome to the real world, okay? Yes, you were abused. Yes, you were exploited. Welcome to recognition. Welcome to recognizing that abuse. Maybe, perhaps you should work to dismantle that same system instead of fucking being like, all the fucking Afghan civilians I shot in the direction of, what was that for? Nothing? Dumbass. Now, the moment for your redemption is upon us, okay? Shut the fuck up and get the fucking work. Get the fucking work to try to stop that from happening to other people. I agree with that. So we just let him win? What do you mean let him win? They won. It's their country. It's literally their country. Okay? We went in there, got our shit pushed in, okay, like a bunch of pathetic little fucking losers by a bunch of goddamn goat herders using weapons from like the last time we armed them, okay? They wore slides, motherfucker. You went down there, wore a goddamn rucksack or whatever kind of fucking 80 pounds of gear in the middle of the desert heat, couldn't get acclimated to the fucking climate. We're having a fucking heat stroke the entire goddamn time. Cost like $200,000 just to carry your dumbass around and all the fucking gear that you had on top all around. And then some motherfucker in slides and an RPG literally owned your shit, okay? Absolutely fucking dumpstered, and owned your goddamn shit. Perhaps it's time to fucking reconsider, okay? Invasion was warranted. United clans of people that treat girls and women like goldfish, harboring people that claim to be responsible for 9/11. That is not a justification for going anywhere, okay? Shut the fuck up. So why didn't we stop when fucking Osama was no longer in Afghanistan? Why do you continue it for 20 years, dude? Just for funsies, right? Shut up. Yeah, they were using fucking recycled batteries to just absolutely destroy like $1 million fucking pieces of equipment. All it was for was so that like 10 fucking companies could make a goddamn killing, okay? By taking your tax dollars and pumping it into research and development, and also using that research and development as a testing ground on the civilians of Afghanistan and Iraq, so that they could then turn around and use it on you, the American citizens, when you come back and your brain is fucking broken from PTSD and you think wearing a mask means it's like devil time and devil worship, so you want to fucking protest against the government. So now they're using the same kind of fucking the long-range acoustic device that they used in Iraq 10 years ago on your bitch ass. Okay? Good luck. Have fun. What a great situation we have created for ourselves. Someone's got to use those weapons. Dad is a vet and was there for 9 years of his life, lost his best friends, and people back home just sit on Twitch and shit on our vets. Yeah, you're right. All of our vets are dumbasses. No, my friend. I'm saying specifically your dad, okay? Your dad who's a veteran who was there for 9 years. I love that you are not a veteran, by the way. I guess you missed it when I was talking to a veteran, but whatever. No, I'm saying your dad is a dumbass, okay? You can be a veteran and still be a fucking dumbass. And if your dad is unaware and like now, only now is he recognizing that like he was fucked over by the American government and he doesn't want to change that. He doesn't want to like all of a sudden join About Face or Veterans Against Foreign Wars or I don't know, a multitude of other fucking organizations that are readily available for veterans who recognize that like their service was for literally nothing other than improving the bottom line of like 12 goddamn military industrial complex corporations, then yes, your dad is a fucking dumbass. Sorry, that's just the goddamn truth. I'm not gonna fucking I'm not gonna treat you with kitty gloves, okay? It's just the truth. It's literally the truth. At least a lot of veterans recognize that shitty bargain and work against it. Do you want me to serve it to you with like a little bit of fucking sugar coating? Is that what you want? I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm not a veteran. Yeah, I'm not saying you are. I'm saying your dad is, if that's his take. How the fuck do you guys seriously back the fucking Taliban? This is what America's really become? None of us are backing the Taliban, you dumb fuck. God damn, I'm literally having a conversation with a 14-year-old who has no understanding of like complex geopolitical problems, warring tribes and shit like that. That they just think like you're either the part of American military or against it and pro-Taliban.
And those are the spaces that need to be filled one way or another. And those are not spaces that can be permanently filled by the United States or the West writ large. That's something that can only be done by Muslims. And so I think if there's a lesson that is reinforced by our experience in Afghanistan, it's that this global struggle is really not between the West and a group of radical Islamists. This is a struggle within the Islamic world for the heart and the soul and the future of the Islamic world. And ultimately, it's Muslims who are going to determine the victor in all this.
In 2002, as the U.S. was secretly laying the groundwork for another invasion, this time in Iraq, Grenier returned to Washington and was named Iraq Mission Manager. He was responsible for all of the CIA's intelligence operations and analysis in the country. Were there mistakes made that helped to foster what we...
You are so good at sounding confident talking about something you know nothing about. What, that kid's dad is a dumbass because he thinks that, like, you know, we should have been permanently in Afghanistan? Okay, well, that's an authority figure that you should agree with. The fucking CIA dipshit over here who's saying the exact same thing. He just thinks it's good. I think it's bad.
See now is the rise of the Islamic State?
The short answer is yes. There were many unintended consequences of decisions that we made in a different context, particularly with regard to Iraq. Given the extent to which I have been very critical of the George W. Bush administration and the way that they conducted that campaign in Iraq. Some people may be surprised to learn that, in fact, I supported the effort at the outset. I supported the idea of invading Iraq in order to topple Saddam Hussein. And we could spend a long time talking about the reasons for that. I've not given up that idea. That said, as soon as we won the military campaign, as we knew we would, and relatively easily, I think we made a series of very bad mistakes. Now, we don't know how history would have turned out if we had followed what I would regard as wiser policies, but I certainly felt at the time, and I think history has borne out, that we made some very serious mistakes in formally disbanding the Iraqi army, in formally disbanding the Ba'ath Party. And what we did, just as in Afghanistan, essentially we and our Afghan allies conveyed the idea to the Taliban that there's no place for you in the new Afghanistan, we conveyed the
As a soldier, you are not there to kill or slay places. We were there to actually help build schools, rivers, make sure you use water as a resource. I'm not saying it's good being a soldier, but hanging people out like that makes you a dumbass, says Ghost Fanta. Are you a veteran? Are you a veteran? Are you a veteran? Okay. I'm not a veteran. Okay. I'm a Korean War veteran. Hold on. I'm going to find... Hold on. Okay, I am a veteran now. Just kidding. That's one. Two, are you fucking that stupid? As a soldier, you're not there to kill or slay places. We were there to actually help build schools. There is 0% chance that this dude actually fucking toured. Okay? Like, literally 0% chance that this dude toured. Like, I will put money on it, okay? Yeah. I love mechanical soldiers. I love calling up, you know, electrical soldiers to come and, you know, fix the lighting in my house. You know what I mean? My brother, for example, is an aerospace and mechanical soldier. He builds, you know, satellites and stuff like that. Oh, wait, there's a term for that. It's called engineer, dude. Yeah, I love when Obama was building a hospital by blowing it up in Kunduz. None of you fucking nerds will ever understand actually being there to help and not kill dumb fucks. I love the amount of help that the American military gave the people of Afghanistan by, you know, shipping their own pedophile warlords into certain areas. Or at the very least, just like giving them bags of cash. It's pretty funny. They really, dude. When I think of Afghanistan, I think of all of the fucking wonderful schools. I was an HVAC technician in the Air Force, but when I deployed, I was boots on the ground. This dude is a dumbass.
The conception to Sunnis writ large that there really is no place for you in the new Iraq. And I think it was exaggerated by them, but that was the clear idea that they got. That's what drove the insurgency that we fought. And it was that insurgency then that created the space for Islamic extremists to come in and essentially take over the struggle. I spent about 16 years overseas, mostly in Muslim countries, mostly in primitive Muslim countries. And during that time, you managed to pick up a lot of stuff. Old guns in Afghanistan and daggers from the Arabian Peninsula and Pakistan.
This is Yemen, right?
This Yemen,
Yeah.
Exactly. And this one is from Morocco. This is a gold inlaid crysknife from Indonesia. This is a particularly interesting one, I think. This is all gold fill, and if you take a look at the blade, it's all it's watered steel.
Some real fucking colonization happening right in front of our eyes, dude. I went there, fucked shit up, stole some artifacts, and now I'm back, baby. I got paid handsomely.
And this
Yoink.
is an old manuscript that was given to me as a gift by a very dear friend in North Africa. And of course, it's all handwritten, probably about 150
What's he doing in North Africa, chat?
or more years old.
Grenier was working at CIA when the agency received approval in 2002 to use so-called enhanced interrogation techniques, or EITs, on suspected high-value terrorists who were detained at secret black site prisons. In his book, Grenier said that by the time he inherited the EIT program a few years later as director of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, it was efficient and highly disciplined. And with the exception of waterboarding, he supported the continued use.
No, the black site isn't in Portland, chat. It was in Poland. The good friend in North Africa, 1000% is like an Egyptian black site that he's referencing, like a dude that was a torturer there, probably.
Of the methods. In the news very prominently lately is a retrospective.
Guys, he's woke on fucking torture. You know, we talk about Taliban a lot and we're like, oh my God, they're doing this, they're doing that. And they are fucking horrible, right? But then you turn your head around and you watch like this guy literally justify like torture of random people that they've just chosen to be high value targets. And it's like, that's so civilized. And I talk to my friends about this all the time. They're always like, oh, you know, you can't even fucking bribe cops here. Right? Like, oh, you can do that in other countries. You can't do bribery in America. I'm like, no. In Western nations, specifically in America, you just have a more formal process. You can bribe a government administrator or an official. You just have to do it through the formal channels. It's called campaign financing. You can bribe the cops. They literally even give you a card for it. Okay? If you bribe the police department, they will unironically give you a fucking get out of jail free card. Literally. You can get a nice little sticker in your car too. That's bribery. Yeah, you can get a PBA card. It's literally bribery. It's just more formalized. So we often think that like, oh, this kind of stuff never happens, dude. Corruption never happens in America. It's like, no, it does. It's just formalized. There's a formalized process to corruption. Anyway.
Look at the CIA's rendition and detention program, and there's a lot of debate about the efficacy of that. Is there the potential for that?
This dialogue isn't helpful. Saying vets are dumbasses is only going to push the ardent military supporters further from your base. Say they were manipulated, lied to, but it doesn't really help calling them dumb. I mean, they are, but saying it isn't winning them over. You're talking to a goddamn Korea veteran, son, okay? What's your disorder, Sergeant? What's your malfunction? I'm a goddamn Korea veteran, son. Recognize. Do you not see my hat? Lol, you sit here and blabber about bullshit for a living? Are you mad? Lib takes Omega Law. I'm not interested in your hot takes about Afghanistan.
What a fun weekend I'm having. Hey, if you're one of
Oh, I don't want to.
those people attacking veterans on the internet for lamenting the fall of Afghanistan, you're a bad person. I don't much care for your half-formed thoughts about... Gosh, what a fun weekend I'm having. Hey, if you're one of those people attacking veterans on the internet for lamenting the fall of Afghanistan, you're a bad person. I don't much care for your half-formed thoughts about American imperialism as you attack the very people that end-stage capitalism forced into the military. Why don't you go look up how they recruit, huh? Really don't love how you all keep ignoring all the horrific things the Taliban has done throughout history in your scramble to criticize the US or the 41 other countries that are part of the International Security Assistance Force, which was in Afghanistan. Frankly, I don't think you care at all about the people of Afghanistan. You just want to yell at people on the internet and take a huge problem and make it small so that you can attack me instead of, doing the internal work of realizing that international conflict is messy and complicated and often has good and bad parts. But what would I know? I was only a part of it. And no, I don't feel bad for going. I was a medic, and nothing you can say will change my opinion of the things that I did and experienced there. I helped the people of Afghanistan. Have you? Gosh, what a...
This is not me. No, I know. I just look, I'm not one of those people who's like, fuck every veteran unconditionally. Like, they didn't have to serve, fuck them. Like, they're a piece of shit. And there's a lot of people like that, especially on the left. Okay. But when I see this sort of stuff, I'm like, dude, stop, dude. Just say you're against it. And that's it. Okay. You're literally a fucking combat medic. You already know you're smarter than the other fucking grunts. What are you doing? What is stop. I don't think he's against it though. I mean, he sure seems like he might not be. Yeah, he says he was preyed upon by late stage capitalism, so I think he, like, you know, understands the vibes. What if you joined before you were pulled? More on lefties? No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just still so cringe, though. Like, he's right about the indoctrination. He's right about the different reasons for why people join, which is why I'm saying that, like, which is why I'm always saying, like, look, I'm more understanding. He also did say he doesn't regret it. This is why they say joining the military is the male equivalent of dropping out and becoming a stripper. What the fuck do you mean? Strippers are overall. Strippers are overall doing like a public service, dude. What the fuck do you mean? If he dropped down, if he dropped into Afghanistan and dropped that bussy, I wouldn't be having this conversation. Okay? Can you imagine, dude? He just went down there and was just like fucking throwing that ass back, dude. At the Pashtuns, like, yo, what's up? How do you like me now? Give me some of that fucking guy liner, baby. Let's go. I'm gonna fucking throw it back. I'm gonna drop a metric ton of ass on that fucking Kunduz hospital, bitch. Let's go. That would be good. That would be a good thing. I'm just saying. Airdropped bussy first? Yeah. About this tally bussy, dude. So you don't think soldiers provide society a service? I do. I think it's a bad service for the most part. Like, you know, some do all right. Like, there's like, I mean, ultimately, you are literally working for a war machine that is, main output is just bad. Please don't say the vets are dumb. You will hurt their feelings. For real, though, 20 years, $2 trillion. How did the U.S. manage to accomplish nothing? No, they did everything. The Afghan war wasn't a failure, dude. It was a fucking massive success. It's just that, like, the main goal wasn't to, like, bring democracy to Afghanistan or overall improve the social welfare or lives of Afghani people. It was just to make money and extract natural resources from Afghanistan. And on that front, like, they made hella money. They're caked up, dude. They did great. Lots of opium production. You know what I mean? Fun fact, guess what comes up on Google first when you search for vet suicide rates? What? Addiction therapy? Like opium addiction therapy? Is that what it is? Probably. I thought it was 22 a day. It just sucks, dude. Anyway, let's finish this fucking dumbass CIA guy talking about how he thinks torture is great.
That to now come back into play as we're fighting a
No, the opium harvested from there doesn't go to the pills we use. The overwhelming majority of opiates, like the legal opiates, pharmaceutical corporations get their opium from Tasmania. But the illegal shit, the street level shit, you get from Afghanistan.
new threat in the Islamic State.
The harvested
and how do
poppy.
those two work together?
When we were capturing people, detention and interrogation was a very important issue. And the reason that we are not capturing as important people in anything like the numbers that we were before is because they're no longer present in the places where we and allied services can capture them. For the most part, they are in ungoverned space, whether it's in Iraq or Syria or Yemen or Somalia, the tribal areas in Pakistan. So it's not as though the U.S. government, made a strategic or a tactical decision. We're going to stop trying to capture these people. We're going to kill them instead. It's that we just don't have the same opportunities to capture them that we once did.
How critical was that program in 2002 and 2006?
Right. Yeah, I inherited the program as it had evolved when I took over counterterrorism in late 2004 and into 2005. 2002, 2003, it was critically important. Al-Qaeda was a very...
Yeah. Massive failure, by the way. Like, they got zero workable intelligence. Zero. Literally no intelligence whatsoever that was actually... Like, it's not even a... It's like beyond incomprehensible. I can't believe he's like, oh man, some of the torture was good. Like, no, dude. Would you join the army? Fuck no, dude. Are you fucking insane? What the fuck would I do that, dude? Why would I do that shit? Have you seen what I talk about? First of all, I'm a veteran of Korea, so what if the army was building schools though? Yeah, then I probably still wouldn't do it, but then it's like a different conversation. That'd be sick. To protect your nation? From what, dude? From fucking what? I can't even join the chair force because my eyesight is fucked. From wait, can you explain to me what the army's protecting the nation from? Like the fucking goat herders that we just saw?
Disciplined, centralized organization. We didn't have good intelligence sources on Al-Qaeda at the time. The only real insight that we got in the early days on Al-Qaeda was through capturing these individuals and interrogating them. Now, a majority, even of the worst, the most valuable, if you will, who came into CIA hands, a majority of those never saw anything more coercive than what you would expect to find in a U.S. police precinct. There was, however, a minority of those with whom we engaged in harsh interrogation. And of course, that has become a very politically sensitive.
The American military literally tortured one of you guys who might even be in the chat right now. Like, with similar enhanced interrogation techniques. Yeah, Chelsea Manning. That's a vet I respect. This dude is just, lying out of his ass.
Issue since, but
what are your thoughts on if they should have balkanized Afghanistan? Do you think that could have been an option, seeing as Afghanistan has very little to speak when it comes to a unified culture? Kind of unlucky that you don't have a full perspective. Shrug. Unfortunately, there are a lot of things that policymakers do that I would disagree with, but as a whole, Intel does a good job at what they do. Parakeets. What the fuck are you talking about? The enhanced interrogation program was entirely fundamentally flawed, a human rights violation through and through, which is precisely why you had to fucking do it in black sites. And lastly, it failed. It was a gigantic failure. I know you watched, it literally didn't work. That's the worst part about it. Even if you go beyond the fact that you are routinely violating human rights. You were just doing those war crimes for no reason. I'm a right-wing nationalist, so complete opposite to what I believe I've heard. I believe. Never heard of you, but judging by things, you're pretty far left. My friends and all agree that modern war is bullshit and all just about money and destroying poor countries for their resources. I believe just leave these nations alone and rule how they want to be ruled and let them sort themselves out if they want to change, so we agree on that front anyway. Who the fuck says they're a right-wing nationalist, dude? What the fuck is wrong with you? What a psycho. My man just said, I'm a Nazi, you know? I'm like a little bit, I'm like one step removed from a Nazi, or just like actual Nazi. Wait, hold on. Someone in the chat just said, right-wing nationalist equals Nazi lol. I forget who it was. I couldn't catch him. But yeah, that's what it is. What do you mean? What the fuck? As a member of Al Qaeda, I also agree. Biden tweet on 6K troops for departure. I've authorized 6,000 troops to deploy to Afghanistan to assist in the departure of U.S. and allied civilian personnel from Afghanistan and to evacuate our Afghan allies and vulnerable Afghans to safety outside the country. Our current military mission will be short in time and focused on its objectives. Get our people and our allies to safety as quickly as possible. And once we have completed this mission, we will conclude our military withdrawal. We will end America's longest war, Jack. He didn't say Jack. Yes, he did. Here's your chance to have access to malarkey by being a reply guy. I'm sitting down with President Biden on Wednesday for an exclusive interview. What would you ask him? I'm not gonna. Yeah. L nerd ratio.
In terms of what came out.
I'm gonna say you fell off. L nerd ratio. That's what he should, and then he's forced to repeat that to Joe Biden.
Out of that program writ large, it was critical to us at the time. We didn't understand our enemy, and I think there's a lot that's probably not really understood. People sort of had this Jack Bauer conception that you interrogate somebody aggressively, and he tells you where the bomb is hidden, and you get there just before it goes off. In real life, it doesn't work like that. In real-life counterterrorism, it's all about the people. And in a disciplined organization where they carefully compartment information, as Al-Qaeda did, even capturing a senior member of the organization is probably not going to tell you very much about ongoing plots. What they can tell you about is the people. And so if you get to the people before...
Yeah, that's literally why the program that you said was working fine didn't work.
They can mature and launch those plots, you can keep those plots from reaching fruition. That's really
what ends up happening in the real world as we found out from the enhanced interrogation strategy's abysmal failure, which was investigated by the Congress, which the CIA then subsequently literally fucking spied on congressional members over, was that people just lie when they're being tortured to get you to stop torturing them. Like, they literally just fucking lie. Right wing isn't conservative and nationalist. Just because you are right wing and a nationalist doesn't filthy Nazi. Don't how you lefties arrive at the answer a conservative nationalist is a Nazi. Dude, what the fuck? Like, it wasn't the socialism that people remember the Nazis over. You know that, right? It was the nationalism. Like, you're openly admitting that you're a nationalist here in the United States of America in 2021, the year of our holy Lord. Literally, what a fucking Nazi would be like, oh, dude, I'm just a nationalist. I want to hear more from this fucking Nazi, though.
What we were about. We were trying to find out about their colleagues. Some of them were willing to give up that information relatively easily. Some of them it was very, very difficult.
Do you have a personal opinion about the enhanced interrogation techniques?
Nobody in CIA was elected. CIA, just as the military, has to assure itself that the orders that it's given by the president are legal. But once they've assured themselves that it's legal, they have a professional responsibility to follow through. And part of the concern that I have with the political controversy that we're seeing today is that we run a serious risk of creating a generation in CIA which thinks that they should be deciding for themselves and for their own personal and bureaucratic reasons which of their lawful orders they're going to follow. Institutionalized insubordination is not where we want to go.
Why did you ultimately leave CIA?
Oh, that's a very long and complicated question, and it works on different levels. I'm glad that I left when I did. Not because I didn't like it, loved every minute of it. Within CIA at that time, as in many organizations, at many times, there were a lot of internal controversies. And
these guys are literally worse than the fucking, like, the lowest rank and file CIA guy is still like at least 100 times worse than like every fucking dumbass grunt who's from like an upper middle class family but joined the military because his pappy was in the military, okay? And his fucking grandfather was in the military, so he comes from a military family, and he's a fucking dumbass. So he too joined the military because that's what you're supposed to do. And now he's out of the military and still a fucking, now a gigantic dumbass and a conservative. That guy, significantly better as a human than like any liberal CIA agent. He's just like, I loved every moment of it. Like, yeah, I was destabilizing the Pashtun tribes, engaging in warfare, trying to get them to fight one another, you know, suspiciously right before 9/11. Suspiciously leading up to and right before 9/11. Nothing weird going on there, of course. But I loved every moment of it.
I would probably not be the first one to find himself in a position where his boss had previously had his job. And
like, he literally said, we torture some folks, and I loved every moment of it.
And when you set out to do the job differently from your predecessor, when your predecessor is now your boss, your days are probably going to be numbered.
Why write this book now?
If I'd written this book back immediately after I got out of CIA, it would have been a different book. It would have essentially been an adventure story. And I think a fairly compelling adventure story because there were a lot of extraordinary things that happened during those 88 days. But what I didn't know at that time was that we were going to be fighting essentially another war in Afghanistan. I didn't know the rest of the story. I didn't know how this thing was going to turn out, at least in terms of the active U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan. So the core of the story is still the same, but the context in which I present it is really quite different.
President Ghani has requested some flexibility on our drawdown timelines, and I've decided that we will maintain our current posture of 9,800 troops through the end of this year.
Last month, the Obama administration announced that it would slow the pace of withdrawal of the last remaining U.S. troops from Afghanistan at the request of the country's president, Ashraf Ghani, setting the stage for another bloody year of battle against insurgents.
Is there a fucking actual TOS here? What the fuck?
Despite the promises, America's longest war appears to be getting longer. Grenier, who now works for a financial firm focused on the security and intelligence sector, says for all of the billions of dollars spent in Afghanistan and lives lost, there is little to show.